Hey guys, it's Allison Velez from Winning Your Relationship Game. I have gotten quite a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks, and I have tried to go back and answer them individually, but I'm pretty sure that I missed some, and I've unfortunately gotten a little bit behind. So I wanted to take some of the questions and kind of group them together and try to answer them generally so that as many people as possible could get a benefit from the answers. So I got multiple questions about this, and really it's similar to questions that I receive all the time. But the example situation is that the person's been in a relationship or even a marriage for a number of years, could be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even. And then they thought that everything was okay in their relationship, and suddenly their partner leaves or kicks them out or wants to end the relationship for some reason. Now, usually the person who's writing the question to me wants to know how they can get their partner to take them back. What can they do to change how their partner feels about the relationship? Sometimes the person that's writing the question can even look back at their relationship and maybe they believe that their partner wasn't really ever even capable of the depth of relationship that they actually wanted. But still, they want to know how they can get their partner back. The first disclaimer that I always make is that I've never said that I can make someone come back to a relationship. I do not know how to force another person to do anything. Maybe there's a way, but I don't know it yet. So I always say the only control we have is over ourselves and what we do. So unfortunately, if your partner is done with the relationship, I can't tell you how to force them back to it. I'm really sorry about that. If you think there's still hope for the relationship and there's still, some kind of communication going on with your partner, then there might be room for something to change there. I also really, 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 really hate to give up hope. I'm always hopeful until the bitter end. So the first thing you might want to think about if you're in a situation like this is, do you really want that person back? Are they really the partner that you want? Do I really want them back? Now, like I said, some people will say their partner was emotionally abusive, they were cheating, lying, emotionally distanced, whatever. So I say, what is it that you want to continue? Do you want to keep yourself in a situation like that? So why would you want a relationship like that to continue? Are you afraid of failure? Do you think that's what you deserve? Do you still have some love in your heart for that person? At some point you might have to accept that your partner just isn't going to be who or what you want in a relationship, and that's okay. So most of our angst in the whole world is because we want something to be different than it really is. And I can tell you, there's been times in my relationship when I thought I couldn't take it, I wasn't going to make it, it wasn't worth it. I felt miserable, unseen, unheard. So I asked myself, what kept me in it? When I rationally looked at my relationship, it wasn't that my husband was mean or intentionally neglectful. I just wasn't really happy with what I was getting. So I decided to be more clear in my communication about those things. And guess what? Things began to get better. And if you're anything like me, just the tiniest bit of effort will keep me engaged. So that was enough for it to make sense for me to stay. And I'm glad that I did. I've been married over 25 years now. Now, if I'd evaluated my relationship at that time and said, well, he's a liar about these things and he's cruel in this way or he's irresponsible in that way, I think I probably would have made a different decision because I wouldn't have wanted to stay in a relationship where I was treated that way. And these are all things that we have to decide for ourselves, but it's really more about you. If you are being treated in a disrespectful way, why do you feel that it's okay to subject yourself to that? So some self-growth work there for you. Likewise, though, I always like to turn it around. If your partner has left you, have you been treating them disrespectfully? Did they get to the point where they felt like it wasn't worth hanging in there anymore? Did they think that they couldn't tolerate it? I'm not saying that's the case, and I'm not trying to kick you when you're down. But if a relationship has failed, it is our responsibility for self-growth to learn what we can from that situation. So sometimes, more rarely, somebody reports that their relationship ended and they thought that they were totally committed and suddenly their partner just ended it. Most of the time there are signs if you look back, but sometimes people claim to be blindsided. If your partner does bring up a reason for ending the relationship, you've got to be honest with yourself as to, did they bring these issues up with me? Did I not take them seriously? Did I not realize how important it was to them? And maybe you need to take some responsibility for that. I'm not saying that's the case, but you got to look at that. So while we talk about responsibility, I do believe it's all of our responsibility to communicate our wants, needs, and desires to our partner in the best way that we can. And we have to make sure that our partner understands how important these issues are to us. Is it a deal breaker, or is it just something that would be kind of nice if it was different? The kicker to this is, though, your partner has the right to respond to these requests or not. You cannot force your partner to do what you want them to do or to not do what you don't want them to do. No control. Now, I always hope that my partner wants to contribute to my happiness, and I hope yours does too. And I do think that it is responsibility when you're in a relationship that you ought to contribute to each other's happiness in the ways that don't compromise your own self. You should be willing to change things within reason, as should your partner. As a personal example that I always give of this, my husband asked me one day, I was walking around in some slippers that I had, and they were good comfy slippers, and when I walked around they went flop, 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 flop on the ground. And my husband said, "Would you please get rid of those slippers? They are driving me crazy with the noise that they make." Now, I could have responded to that in a lot of different ways. I could have said, "No, these are perfectly good slippers. They're comfortable, and I'm going to keep them. You can just deal with it." Could have said that, right? Might have said that in some of my younger days. But I said, if they bother you, they're gone. I took the slippers and I threw them in the garbage, and I went to the store later on that day and I bought a different pair of slippers. So no big deal. It was something that I could do to contribute to his happiness. I didn't get defensive about it. I didn't fight for my right to wear those slippers, because certainly I had control over whether I continued to wear those slippers or not, right? I chose not to because it would contribute to his happiness if I got rid of them. Now, I always caveat this by saying that if there's something that he asks me to do that is going to be contrary to my values or morals or be a real big problem for me, then I would owe it to myself to say no, right? So if he had asked me, for instance, to throw out my yoga pants, that would have been a problem because I love those things and I live in them practically. So I would not have complied with that request. The point is, it's your responsibility to decide if the want, need, or desire that's being expressed is something that you can live with or not. If it's not that big of a deal, go ahead. That's fine. Change for your partner. If it is that big of a deal, and you got to decide, okay, I could have went to the mat for the slippers, but is it worth it? No. I bought a pair of slippers for less than $10. No big deal. So as a fictional example, if I had a partner who spent money irresponsibly, I would probably approach him and say, I really need you to get this under control. I'd try to make suggestions like getting a budget set up, cutting up credit cards, whatever I thought might help with that. I would try to present that and ask him if he would please go along with that. But he has the choice to refuse. Now, he might give me some lip service and tell me that, yeah, he'll do it and then not follow through. But ultimately, if I decided, okay, he's not serious about changing this behavior, I would have to determine how important that was to me. So if he's going to continue to spend recklessly, it could be a very negative impact on me. So if that doesn't seem too bad to me, I could live with that or whatever. I might just continue to be kind of annoyed at his behavior and just move on. But if that is unacceptable to me, I've got some decisions to make. I have some choices to make. So there's probably a lot of questions I could ask myself, but ultimately I need to know, can I separate my financial well-being from his? I need to find out if I'm liable for his overspending, if he racks up, too much money for me to pay back in debt. Am I going to have to file bankruptcy over that? If so, I might not want to do that. I might have to take measures to protect my own self from his overspending. So I might even have to leave the relationship because it's that important to me. And those are decisions that I have to make for myself. So you see, all of those responses are totally up to me. I don't have to make him change for me to take steps to protect myself. My responsibility to him is to clearly articulate what I want, need, or desire in regards to that overspending behavior and how important it is to me. So I might say, if this continues, I might leave. Of course, I need to mean that before I say it, but it's up to him to see if he wants to change, if he sees fit. Now, I know I'm laying down some hard truth here. It can be hard to accept that I'm just going to let them go and continue that potentially really devastating behavior. Yeah. I mean, the truth is that we are all people of free will, and we are not truly capable of changing another person. And usually when you get to this stage of giving ultimatums, there's a lot of pain and anger involved, fear probably too. When we're in those painful emotional places, it kind of drives us to act in kind of a desperate manner. So we may be making our requests by screaming, crying, berating our partner. This is getting us nowhere fast, right? That kind of behavior doesn't improve our communication, and it actually makes it harder for our partner to listen to our actual concerns. I say it all the time, but when we let our negative emotions drive our actions, we actually get more of what we don't want. So pulling back on that instinct and those instinctual reactions can kind of help us be more understood and can help us approach situations more rationally. I do understand how difficult this is, and at times, relationships are too far gone into that negative cycle of communication, and it's impossible to get it out. And in those cases, a relationship may end. That may be the natural progression of your relationship. It may need to end. Now, I have already said I'm an eternal optimist, and I will not admit defeat until the very bitter end. But the truth is that when the relationship is done, you will know it. And if you see that your relationship is over, whether you feel good about that or not, it's in your best interest to try to move on from that. So another situation with relationship coming to a screeching end happens pretty frequently is that the partner is having an affair. And they believe that they're in love with the affair partner because the feelings for that person are really strong, and maybe they've been having some challenges in their primary relationship and they just haven't been able to work that out. They have feelings for that person, and there is a biological basis for that in the science of love. So those feelings are real. I mean, they really do have strong feelings for that person. I've really kind of talked a lot about that science of love stuff, so I'm not really going to go into it here. You can look at some of my other stuff if you want to know more about that. I will say this about affairs, usually they are secretive by nature, so they're forbidden fruit, so to speak. And if your partner is involved in an affair, they probably see things in the affair partner that they don't see in you, or things that maybe they used to see in you, but they're having trouble seeing at this point in time. The problem is that bringing an affair into the light will also show some of its flaws. So that could be good news for the affair's longevity. And it's entirely possible that the affair will be over just as soon as this happens. So you staying present and open to the possibility that your relationship is salvageable could actually help you save your relationship in the end. The problem is sometimes our emotions are so tied up with that. We show ourselves to be clingy, nagging, a bitch, controlling, whatever description your partner may have of you, you may be actually demonstrating that type of behavior. And the more you reinforce their skewed view of reality in the moment, because when you're involved in an affair, it really does skew your view of the world. You're not seeing things rationally. So if you really want to keep your relationship, if you really want it to survive this, and again, you should ask yourself if that's really what you want. It's perfectly valid if you don't. but you have to keep the walls down if you want it to survive. And like I said, it's perfectly acceptable for you not to remain open to continue the relationship in any of these situations. Nobody would blame you if your partner calls an abrupt end to the relationship. Nobody's going to blame you for leaving. It's easy to leave a relationship. I mean, I know there's challenges to leaving any kind of relationship, but it's easy to leave. It's much more emotionally challenged to stay. And, you know, you're going to have to go through a lot of yucky feelings that are going to come up if you stay in a relationship where you don't feel safe with your partner. So I really have to say here, though, if you're trying to rebuild after an affair, it really does help to get professional help. It's not easy to work through those things on your own. So find somebody who is good with couples, has a background in working with attachment and things like that, and get professional support to deal with that if you're going to try to get back together after an affair. Well, sorry about that. I got off on a little bit of a tangent, but what I really wanted to do is hit on some of the more routine questions that I get about a relationship possibly coming to an end, whether it be by affair or the partner calling it off or just some kind of grenade blowing the relationship up. So the thing for you to focus on is always the things that are your responsibility, that are within your control, which is what you do. That is the only thing you can control. Hope I have driven that point home. It is always your responsibility to communicate what you don't like and what you do like, really, clearly. And if it's a deal breaker, that also needs to be communicated. So any situation that you don't like in your relationship, you have a responsibility in that situation. You can accept it or not accept it. And there's probably a whole slew of other options too in there. But we might not like any of the options, but that is really us trying to make reality different than it actually is. So if I'm going to summarize this video, I would say, number one, stop trying to control your partner. You're only going to frustrate yourself and you're not going to be able to do it anyway. Number two, take responsibility for your part in every situation with which you are unhappy. Does that mean you need to communicate more clearly about it? Or do you need to take measures to protect yourself from whatever the situation is? Number three, decide if it's worth it. Do you just want it to be different from the way that it is? Do you want your partner to be different from the way that they are? And you're not going to be happy unless they are? You're going to be in for a lot of frustration. Number four, don't let your feelings run the show. You know, feelings should have a seat at the table, but the emotions drive us to do things that get us what we don't want. So do not let your feelings run the show. So I guess that's going to wrap it up for this video, and I hope that answered a few of you that had sent me questions over the course of the last couple of weeks. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you personally, and sometimes there's really not enough information in a short email for me to be that intelligent about the situation anyway. So I hate to give someone advice based on, 10 sentences of a summary of their relationship. But hopefully there's something in here that you can take and apply to your situation if this is the case for you, and it will help you to navigate a really difficult situation. I appreciate you joining me and sticking around, and I am publishing a communication course. It should be up sometime in the next couple of weeks, and if I get it done before I edit this video, I'll stick the link in here. But if not, then check back on my website and I should probably have it up there. In the meantime, I do have a self-coaching program that includes all of the book that I published a couple of years ago. It has all of the lessons and all of the worksheets, as well as some audio tracks to go along with. I'm getting ready to revise that. So for a limited time, it's available for $19. And you can find that over on my website as well. After I get it revised and add some video and things to it, I'm going to have it as a course. So it's probably going to cost a little bit more than that. So if you want it now, now's the time to go and get it. Otherwise, thank you, and I look forward to talking to you soon.